Hello there. It's John Anthony Francis Wilcox, and today is Saturday, March the 12th, 2022. Sounds impressive, doesn't it? So, I hope you're all doing well. I'm here to just talk. I'm here to confess. I confess. There you go. Here's a genuine thing most people don't know. I really don't enjoy the show Seinfeld. I never understood what the big deal was. I never found it that funny. They said it was a show about nothing. That's about right. They had the arrogance to put it up there with the honeymooners. No way. Just doesn't do it. Sorry. There you go. Confession. Oh, that's up there with like, gee, I'm confessing to you that I hate broccoli, cauliflower, and Brussels sprouts. Oh, and cucumbers in any form except when they're like the relish that's used in tartar sauce. That's fine. So there's that, isn't it? Um, but instead of confession, here's something I learned this week. I had this great little book called The Little Book of Fantastic Four. And by the way, the Fantastic Four was one of my favorite comic books as a kid. Loved it. Stan Lee, Jack Kirby, Joe Sinnott, for the most part. Brilliance. Absolute brilliance. And then when Lee and Kirby left, John Buscema and Roy Thomas, still brilliant. Not quite as brilliant as with Stan and Jack, but still really brilliant. But in this little book, I never knew that the Black Panther, I should say properly, T'Challa, was Jack Kirby modeled him after Sidney Poitier. Who knew? Not I. Of course, I was kind of young at the time. Was I like 6? Something like that, in '66, when the Black Panther made his debut. I believe that was the year. Um, so that was great. By the way, this great little book I highly recommend. Um, the Little Book of Fantastic Four. I was always more of a Marvel guy than a DC guy. Someone, put it rightly that all the characters, for the most part, in DC Comics were already successful. Barry Allen, who was the Flash, was a police. I'm sorry if that's giving away his secret identity. He was already a very successful police scientist. Green Lantern was this great, glamorous jet pilot. Bruce Wayne was a millionaire. Superman was like stronger than anything else on Earth and from another planet. Wonder Woman was a princess. They already had it made before they were anything. So whereas Marvel were outside, there were a few like Tony Stark was a millionaire at the time, probably a billionaire in today's terms, but he had a bum heart and other problems, and everyone else had issues. The Fantastic Four were a squabbling family. Peter Parker was a loser, bit by a spider. Things like that. They were more relatable, and it was just, I don't know. I just found the writing better um, at that time, particularly. Later on, DC was always like 5-10 years behind Marvel. That's just the way it was. Uh, it's how it is, and there are people that feel the opposite, that loved those kind of. They loved that Superman beat up someone once with just using his toe. They felt that was a great piece of storytelling. So, and perhaps it was. But they're comics, they're meant for kids anyway, and they're not real. Let's talk about that. So, there's a lot of things where people are looking to be offended by whatever, by an old film, by whatever, by a non-reality. There are enough problems in reality, in everyday life, without worrying and, I don't know, complaining about. I don't know. I remember a perfect example. years ago they tried to get rid of Porky Pig cartoons because they felt they demeaned stuttering. It's a cartoon. And I don't know, is Elmer Fudd a good example of a regular guy? Elmer Fudd, talking like this. And who cares? When you get to that point where you're worried about films and games and that portrayal of this or that, I mean, I understand, and I'm talking specifically about stuff from the past. It's been done, it's over with, you can't rewrite it, you can't redo it. If you have a problem with contemporary things, fine. You want everything to be whatever, fine. Um, Speak out. See if you can get action. To me, I had a thought this week because I don't like the movie Frozen. Okay? No, it's useless to me. It wasn't made for me anyway. But as I was watching stuff about this whole Russia invading the Ukraine tragedy, I watched this someone on their cell phone in a bunker in Ukraine. There were a bunch of people all kind of nervously gathering there, and this little girl started singing in whatever language the Ukrainians, is that Russian? Is it whatever it is? I don't know. I plead ignorance. Um, she starts singing. I think the song is called "Is It Let It Go" from Frozen. And everyone just is quiet and listening to her. She sings the whole song proudly, and they all give her a little applause. And it was something that comforted her in a time like that with, are you going to be blown up? They said that days later she ended up being safe in Poland with her grandmother, I think it was. A grandmother or great grandmother, one or the other. And I thought, here's something I don't even like for me, but look at the value it had to that little child. And I go, shame on you, John. Shame on you for not seeing the value that other people see in something else. So I'm just saying, things that we dislike or take for granted or what have you, it's us. That doesn't mean it's everyone. I've said every song that you ever hate is someone's favorite song. And it's so true. There are things, I see the other side of that where people try and use music that I hate as a club because they go, well, you write about music, so you have to like, I don't know, fill in the blank, Billy Joel, who I despise. Ugh. The best part of a Billy Joel song is the silence after its final note, for me. So there is that too. I'm officially rambling. Getting into my week, it was a week. Speaking of perspective, I thought better of a movie watching it the second time. My brother brought over the Blu-ray of the film The Black Widow with Scarlett Johansson. And the first time I saw it, I was kind of, I guess I would say, underwhelmed by it. I thought it was just a bunch of minutiae, and she was sort of a secondary character in her own film. And watching it again, it was a totally different film to me. I saw all these little moments that I guess hadn't registered in my head. It's like, oh, that's Ivan, who he was sort of, I guess I would say in the late 60s, early 70s, he was sort of Natasha's Alfred. I think that's a good way to put it. And he was in there, and the Red Guardian was in there. A couple of great jokes regarding that, and there were a lot of little Marvel moments, but it was a lot of filling out of the character who we know ends up dead. We see that. We know this film takes place right after, or actually toward the end of the film Civil Wars. Captain America: Civil War. So I really enjoyed it. I also finally saw Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and it wasn't the master of kung fu I grew up with, who really, to be honest, was Marvel doing Bruce Lee without it being Bruce Lee. And it was fine, and I love seeing Tony Leung from John Woo's film Hard Boiled, and Michelle Yeoh. I always love seeing Michelle Yeoh. If they had Michelle Yeoh reads the phone book, I'll get a copy of that. So saw those this week, and also I got something from my early childhood because I don't see it much on TV anymore on the holidays, and that's the Rankin Bass, the people that did Rudolph, the Little Drummer Boy. And it was just wonderful. It's also, I think, to the best of my knowledge, the only religious Rankin Bass cartoon. They're all about, Frosty and Rudolph and Santa Claus. But this one's about Little Drummer Boy going to see the baby Jesus. And I loved it. And I was, 5, 6 years old again. Because it came out, I think, 65 maybe. I can be corrected on that if you want to slap me down like the bitch that I am. Anyway, by the way, yes, I'm wearing this hat a lot. I like it. Isn't it lovely? So, talk with people this week. Love to hear from you. A lot of good stuff, a lot of tragedy, a lot of pain on this end, a lot of head pain for me this week. But we'll see you next week. And who knows what I'll talk about, because I didn't even know what I was talking about as I was saying this. Bye-bye.